We're starting our walking tour of Dudley here at the stage door of the Lower Gornal Royal British Legion, one of many buildings across the UK set up as a charity to care for those who have suffered as a result of service during the First World War. They've been helping the Armed Forces community and their families ever since. These clubs put on entertainment and act as a social hub. One band known to perform here was pre-Slade band The In-Betweens, with members drummer Don Powell, guitarist Dave Hill and singer Noddy Holder. The band performed here on the 21st of March, 9th of April, 3rd of October and 17th of December 1968. A mile and a half away is Butterfield Court. Just as the 17-storey high-rise block of 64 flats was completed in 1968, the same year the In-Betweens were playing a mile and a half up the road, soon-to-be Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham moved into a two-bedroom flat on the 7th floor here with his wife Pat and his 1 or 2-year-old son Jason. The family moved from where Bonham was born and raised 25 miles away in Redditch, where they had apparently been living in Bonham's parents' caravan. Bonham had been playing in the pre-Led Zeppelin band known as the Band of Joy with Robert Plant prior to moving in here, and part of his reason for moving here was to be close to the musical hotbeds of the Black Country and Birmingham. Plant and Bonham joined Led Zeppelin in that July of 1968, and despite arguments for decades, it's been concluded that this is not the block of flats from the Led Zeppelin 4 artwork. Just under a mile down the road, almost in the town centre, we're making our way through Priory Park. Dudley gets a bad rap sometimes, so I thought I'd show you a nicer looking part of it on the walk to our next location, which is going to be Dudley College of Technology. Officially opened in 1936 as Dudley Technical College, it offered courses in electrical engineering, meteorology and metallurgy, which is the study of the physical and chemical behaviour of metal. The reason I mention that is the reason we're paying a visit, and that is because it is the site of early metal gigs, including 6 very early performances by Judas Priest, 4 with the lineup of Al Atkins on vocals, and 2 in 1975 when Rob Halford had joined and the band were touring their debut album, Rock-A-Roller. UFO, Status Quo, Trapeze and Humble Pie all played at the college in the early 1970s. There's a plaque to give you information about the 12th century Priory ruins opposite the college. Here are the Priory ruins. Here is the Priory Park that we walked through. This is a college campus, and this is the Great Hall where the concerts took place here within the campus. This is the southern tip of the college campus, heading up the hill towards the entrance. I couldn't film much as students were everywhere, and unfortunately, despite trying to make contact and speak to the college and speaking to the lady on the reception desk, they wouldn't let me shoot inside the hall quickly just to show you the size of it. But you can go on their official site and do a virtual tour. I'll put a link in the description. This is the main entrance, and you could see the entrance doors to the hall from there. It's basically the other side of these windows where there's a break in the trees. Along the mile and a half walk to the next locations, we've arrived at the statue of the Earl of Dudley on the peak of Castle Hill. On the way to our next location and right across the road is the Fellows Bar and Grill, which constantly has live entertainment on. I've seen Motorhead and Led Zeppelin tributes here and they were great. Heading down the hill, we're passing Dudley Zoo, which we'll get to later for its own musical history. This building is the last similar one standing on Castle Hill to compare to the Dudley Hippodrome where we are heading. It's also a piece of music history in itself, having been built on the site of Stanton's Music Shop, which was opened by James Stanton in 1895 and taken over by his daughter in the 1950s. It was recreated in the Black Country Living Museum, which is just down the road behind where we are heading. Customers could listen to records in record booths before buying them too, which was a thing back in those days. The shop sold traditional pianos, electric organs and electric guitars, as well as selling gramophones, radiograms and radios. The site of the Dudley Hippodrome. The 1,750-seat Dudley Hippodrome was built in 1938 on the site of the Dudley Opera House, which had burned down 2 years before. Laurel and Hardy appeared at the theatre in May 1947. Comedian Tommy Cooper and musician Eve Boswell performed a production of King of Hearts at the theatre in 1954. Cliff Richard performed to a sold-out crowd in 1959, and Johnny Kidd and the Pirates on the 4th of March 1960. In 1964, the theatre came under the control of the Midland Entertainment Agency. Not much is known about how they operated it, but on the 16th of February 1966, the Kinks played there. The next month, on the 30th of March 1966, Manfred Mann performed at the theatre. It was taken over by Ladbrokes Casino chain and opened again on the 15th of November 1973 as a nightclub with live acts called Caesar's Palace. It was during the theatre's last live music use that the last star performed here, and that was Roy Orbison on the 16th of August 1974. It was used as a bingo hall until 2009, then stood unused for 14 years until, despite objections, it was demolished from August 2023 onwards. Opposite is the famous supposedly haunted Station Hotel. Here, right next to the Hippodrome, down the hill, also stood the third and final of the 3 locations of JB's nightclub and live venue. Here the capacity was 1,000 people and it opened at this site in 1994, remaining until 2011 when it was turned into a banquet and suite, despite still having a few more one-off performances by local bands. The club was named after John Bryant, whose funeral was held on 8th of June 2026. A local DJ who was popular with women. Owner Sam Dukes felt his association with the venue would help bring in customers. Rumours still persist that it was named after John Bonham as well. Artists that performed here include the Wild Hearts multiple times. Zakk Wylde, Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist, played here with his band Black Label Society. The American hard rock band Wasp. Original Iron Maiden singer Paul Di'Anno. Bruce Dickinson twice on a solo tour cycle when he left Iron Maiden, and Blaze Bayley, the singer who replaced Bruce Dickinson in Iron Maiden for a couple of albums, also played here multiple times. New Model Army, Reef, FM, Stereophonics, Skunk Anansie, Uriah Heep, Cannibal Corpse, Insane Clown Posse, Napalm Death, Choir Boys, Orange Goblin, Him, Testament, Entombed, The Wonder Stuff, Terrorvision, Rob Halford with his solo band Halford, Diamond Head, Halloween, Yngwie Malmsteen, Ned's Atomic Dustbin, Henry Rollins in his solo Rollins Band, Creator, Budgie, Faster Pussycat, Dokken, Saxon, Skindred, Doro, The Darkness, Clutch, Hanoi Rocks, Tiger Tails, Skid Row, Sebastian Bach Solo, Rose Tattoo, Love Hate, Michael Schenker, Enough's Enough, and original Guns N' Roses drummer Steven Adler played with his band Adler's Appetite, as well as many others. Now we're going to head back up Castle Hill to Dudley Zoo and Dudley Castle. The keep here at Dudley Castle gives us a good vantage point for 3 points of reference. The Hippodrome, when it was still standing, the Castlegate Island and the Cates Hill Estate. This photo shows the size of the Hippodrome with a view of the back. The Cates Hill Estate is relative for finding the location of Dudley Town Football Club Stadium and the first location of JB's. Cates Hill Housing Estate on the Birmingham Road, shown on this old map, and this left turning onto the Tipton Road still exist. Shown here they match up with this aerial shot and this overlay, placing Dudley Football Club formerly in this area. not actually on the island as is often said. JB's club night started here in 1969 as the football club was on the way down financially, and Sam Dukes convinced the chairman to let him put on a club night with the earlier mentioned DJ John Bryant. Less known bands started playing live and it became so popular that it had to move location in mid 1971. The area stood unused for decades before being redeveloped into the Castlegate complex of restaurants, pubs, hotels, and a cinema. The centre of the area of the Dudley Football Club is near the far end of the Burger King car park, KFC, Costa, the Village Hotel, and one of the pubs on the site. From Dudley Castle Keep, we were looking out over the former Dudley Hippodrome towards Castlegate Island and the first site of JB's. Dudley College is an equal distance away behind us. This is the entirety of Dudley Castle and Zoo grounds, and we're heading here. To get there, we walk north through the castle grounds from the keep, where temporary stages have been built for concerts by Status Quo, Terrorvision, the Australian Pink Floyd, and Catherine Jenkins with a 32-piece orchestra. As we go across the former moat of the castle to reach the Queen Mary's Ballroom. This room held the Broadway Club, Castle Rock, and the Safari nightclubs, hosting soul and Motown discos with Northern Soul nights taking place on Thursday nights in the 1970s. It was a very popular venue from the 1950s to the 1970s for live bands. Keith Evans of the American soul and R&B band The Soul Survivors, he said, in 1967-68, I played at the Broadway Club with my first band, The Magic Roundabout, when we supported the band Marmalade. Our van broke down and members of Marmalade helped pushing the van to get it started. Artists that played here include Bill Haley and his Comets, the Moody Blues, Finders Keepers. Trapeze played 5 times, the In-Betweens played 12 times, and when they changed their name to Slade, they played a further 7 times. Robert Plant and John Bonham played in the Band of Joy, as well as Robert Plant solo as late as 1999. Roy Wood, Jeff Lynne, Long John Baldry, Dudley's own Sir Lenny Henry started out with his weekly stand-up comedy show at the venue, and also worked as a glass collector and barman at the Safari nightclub in the early 1970s. There is a rumour that Robert Plant went straight from his wedding reception here to London for his first rehearsal with Led Zeppelin, but it's untrue as he had his wedding reception in London at the Roundhouse, although he was a regular here when he wasn't performing. Half a mile across town, we're making our way to Dudley Town Hall. It's part of a larger group of civic buildings, all attached to each other, that includes the Coroner's Court and the former Brooke Robinson Museum. The whole complex has a very medieval castle look, I'm guessing to keep with the tradition of it being built on the demolished original medieval town hall. Opened on the 16th of October 1928 by the Prime Minister of England at the time, it's the biggest entertainment space in Dudley and has hosted and continues to host live events all through the year, from touring comedy acts and spoken word events to full live bands. Jimmy Carr's performed here 9 times and Lenny Henry recently played a sold-out hometown show here. The Who played one of their 264 UK concerts of 1965 here, touring their debut album as they gained mainstream success 4 months before the release of the single My Generation. Them, with Van Morrison, played here twice in the same year, Fairport Convention twice, Mott the Hoople, Slade Mark II with Dave Hill and Don Powell, Budgie, The Searchers, The Hollies, Donovan, Glenn Miller, and the Dubliners 4 times. Robert Plant played here in 2021, and John Lydon and the Sex Pistols and Public Image Limited brought spoken word tour here in 2025. You can do a virtual tour of the interior via the hall's official site. I'll put a link in the description. Next door is the public library, which looks more like something you'd find in Rome or Athens than Dudley when you look up and notice the architecture and stone carvings. We've now arrived at our final stop, just under half a mile away at what is now the Mata de Mandir Hindu temple. But from 1971 to 1993, it was the second location of JB's. The Wonder Stuff, Ned's Atomic Dustbin and Diamond Head played both here and the third and final location of JB's multiple times, citing it as an important part of the Stourbridge scene. Bassist for Jimi Hendrix, Noel Redding, played here with his solo band. The Police, Squeeze, Magnum, Dire Straits, Elvis Costello, The Cure, The Undertones, 999. The Sex Pistols hid here due to riots in Wolverhampton ahead of their secret gig. There was an attempt to try and bribe John Lydon to do a set, but he turned down the owner. OMD, The Fall, Saxon, The Psychedelic Furs, The Specials, Simple Minds, The Mission, Bohos, Stray Cats, New Model Army, Fields of the Nephilim, The Charlatans, Levellers, U2, Judas Priest, UFO, Thin Lizzy. A lot of bands played here. Sam Dukes, the owner from Tipton, said that he turned down Queen because they wanted an extra £50. The Manic Street Preachers, Trapeze, Babylon Zoo, Dream Theatre, Clutch, Radiohead, The Stone Roses, Motorhead 3 times and Blur twice. Thanks to the worshippers at the temple for allowing me to film inside. They were very friendly, welcoming, gave me a blessing and some fruit. So to put JB's locations into a bit more perspective, all those famous artists played within a mile over 42 years. Find all of these locations and more using Music Map, the most advanced music history app in the world right now. I'll leave a link in the description to this video. Also subscribe to the channel to make sure you see all of the upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.